Hello, friends, and welcome to Syncopated Saturday Night, presented by the Scott Joplin International Ragtime Foundation. My name is Brian Wright, and I am the current artistic director for the Scott Joplin Festival. And I'm here today in a little ragtime corner of my home in Pittsburgh, and I'm so pleased to have you with me because today we've got some fantastic music in the hour ahead by two really incredible pianists, as you will see. We'll be hearing from Morten Gunnar Larsen and Bill McNally. If you've been with us before on these Syncopated Saturday nights, then you know that our aim is twofold. First of all, we aim to entertain you with some wonderful ragtime and ragtime-related music, but we also aim to raise a little bit of money for the performers that you see. They have lost a lot of work over the past 2 years because of the pandemic, missed festivals, missed concerts, missed gigs, and so any money that we raise will go straight to them to help them with their expenses. So thank you in advance for your generosity. More information later in the program on how you can donate. But because we have so much good music tonight, I'd like to get straight to it and introduce our first performer, who hails from Oslo, Norway. He's been performing and recording ragtime since the mid-1970s. He founded the Ophelia Ragtime Orchestra in 1977 and has led it ever since in concerts all around the world. He's well known for his interpretations of the music of Jelly Roll Morton and U.B. Blake. He's also an accomplished composer in his own right. And I just found out today, if you open up Spotify and search for Scott Joplin, the very first track that comes up is his performance of The Entertainer. I'm speaking of Morten Gunnar Larsen, well known, I'm sure, to many of you, a real favorite of mine, and he's got some really interesting pieces up his sleeve for you today. So with no further ado, I'd like to turn it over now to Mr. Morten Gunnar Larsen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy and honored to have been asked to participate in the Syncopated Saturday Nights produced by the Scott Joplin Foundation. I'm living in Oslo, Norway, and I'm here in my practice studio where I spent way too much time during the pandemic the last couple of years. So it is my pleasure to kind of informally to play a few pieces for you from here. In honor of the great Scott Joplin, I'll start with one of his compositions. Here is Scott Joplin's New Rag from 1912. to play one of the pieces by one of the greatest ragtime composers, Joseph Lamb. I was very sorry to learn recently about the passing of Patricia Lamb Conn, his daughter, who I was very happy to meet several times during the Sedalia Festival as well as the festival in Columbia, Missouri. I'm going to play a very rare piece by Joseph Lamb, one of the numbers that got published after he died in 1959. This is a piece, and I remember very well talking to Pat about this piece, because the title of it is Toadstool Rag. And at that time I did not know what a toadstool was, and now I know it's a mushroom. I'm going to play is by the Brazilian composer Ernesto Nazaré, who made this fascinating parallel to ragtime from the northern American states in Brazil around the same time as Scott Joplin wrote his wonderful rags. This number was composed in 1917 during World War I, and the title of it is Guerreiro. Tango Brasileiro is the subtitle. Going to change the mood a little bit, and I'm going to play Caribbean Waltz. Some people might want to call it a Calypso Waltz, and it's a piece I love to improvise on, and it was done by a pianist called Russ Henderson, who was originally from Trinidad but who moved to London, England just after the Second World War. And he was a master of playing steel drums, but also a great pianist. So here is his Caribbean waltz called the Spanish Steps. going to play a piece by the contemporary composer David Thomas Roberts. This is a number he wrote in honor of a Cuban dancer that can be seen in Cuban and Mexican films from the 1950s. Her name was Maria Antonietta Pons. It's a quite difficult piece, so please bear with me. to the last piece I'm going to play for you, or it's actually a little medley of two numbers. It's the first, it's an excerpt from my Norwegian rag number one, or Norse rag number one, as some of you might like to call it, which then leads into a ragtime stride-inspired version of Anitra's Dance by our national composer Edvard Grieg. So with these two numbers in the medley, I would like to say thank you to the Scott Joplin Foundation for having me featured here in the Syncopated Saturday Night. It was the best I could do at home here. Hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see many of you in live audiences in hopefully not too long time. All the best from Morten Gunnar Larsen in Oslo, Norway.
Thank you so much, Morten Gunnar Larsen, for a spectacular performance. I especially enjoyed hearing Toadstool Rag. It's a beautiful piece, and I can't recall the last time I ever heard somebody perform that in person. Thanks for pulling that out. Of course, the other pieces very enjoyable as well. Friends, you're watching Syncopated Saturday Night, presented by the Scott Joplin International Ragtime Foundation. If you're enjoying the program tonight, maybe call up a friend, invite them to watch along with us. If they missed the first part of the program, or if you missed part of the first part, or if you just like to see it again, the entire program will be available for viewing after the live stream anytime. You can call it up and watch the whole show again. Also, remember you can watch any of the past Syncopated Saturday Nights that the Joplin Foundation has presented. They're all available from the Scott Joplin Foundation's YouTube channel. And if you're enjoying the program tonight, I hope you might consider making a little gift of support that will go directly to the musicians you see in tonight's program. You can visit the Scott Joplin Foundation's website, which is www.scottjoplin.org/donate, and there you can make a contribution with your credit card, or you can mail a check to the Scott Joplin Foundation. The address is at the website. Again, www.scottjoplin.org/donate. And many, many thanks for your support. Well, up next we have a remarkable pianist from Texas. He now lives in New Braunfels there with his wife and son. His wife is an astounding pianist in her own right, but I don't want to take anything away from Bill McNally, who is a superb pianist. He has performed at many piano festivals around the United States. He's well known to regular attendees of the Scott Joplin Festival in Sedalia, Missouri. In fact, he's currently acting as the Foundation's coordinator for the Ragtime Kid program, which if you come to Sedalia this summer, you may learn more about and even meet the current Ragtime Kid. Bill plays all kinds of ragtime, from the classics of the days of Scott Joplin to more modern compositions by William Bolcom, William Albright, and his own. Bill is quite an accomplished composer, and he also champions the music of people like Vincent Johnson. So I think we might hear a little bit of that in the program tonight. I won't give away too many secrets, but I will turn it over now to my good friend and amazing pianist, Bill McNally.
Thank you, Brian. It's good to be sharing the virtual stage with you, even if we aren't on stage at the Liberty Center just yet. So that's actually the first thing I want to say tonight. Come hear live ragtime. Live ragtime at the Scott Joplin International Ragtime Festival in Sedalia, Missouri, June 1 through 4, this year, 2022. It's happening. It's really finally happening. I would really like to thank the Scott Joplin International Ragtime Foundation, and in particular, Chris Robinson and Bob Walters for all of the behind-the-scenes work they did in setting up this performance tonight. And I have the great honor of sharing this stage tonight with Morten Gunnar Larsen. If ever there was a ragtime pianist that all of us ragtime pianists look up to and is so versatile in so many different ragtime styles, Morten, that's you, and I'm humbled to be sharing the stage with you this evening. So a few years ago, the Scott Joplin Festival's summer theme was Ragtime, where America's music began. And ragtime certainly was the forefather of musical styles like Dixieland, Tin Pan Alley, and eventually it merged with the blues and traveled up the Mississippi River and east over into New York, and it became this Harlem style. And later on it evolved, especially through harmony, into a bunch of different jazz styles, not to mention country music and a whole bunch of other things. My program tonight is going to include 2 classic rags, and then it's going to take a look at some of the other ragtime-derived styles that I have found so fascinating over the years. So I really hope you enjoy tonight's ragtime tour. So I'm performing here at my home in Texas, and I figured it would be appropriate to start with a rag that is close to a classic rag by a Texas composer named David Guion. And if that name isn't familiar to you, he wrote a little tune called Home on the Range. So he really had a very interesting composition career. But this was his very first published work, the Texas Foxtrot, written in 1915. And the form of this rag is a little bit unusual. It goes from the A strain into a B strain, into a C strain, and then back to the B strain and back to the A strain. So it's out of the usual ragtime order of things. It also tends to be a different ragtime mood than we usually hear. But I think it's one of the most gorgeous pieces of ragtime written. So I hope you all enjoy Texas Foxtrot. The next piece I'm going to share with you is a piece written for me by young ragtime composer Vincent Matthew Johnson, a California native who got into writing in the novelty piano style when he was still a teenager. And this piece, And So Forth, is derivative of the novelty style that featured composers like Zez Confrey and Arthur Schutt. You'll hear one of his pieces later in this program. But he uses fourths unusually. Is a common novelty style. So in Kitten on the Keys, we hear... Well, those parallel fourths moving together, they sound virtuosic on the piano. They sound really pretty cool. Vincent has written this piece called And So Forth, and I'm pretty sure there are more parallel fourths in my right hand than any other piece I have ever seen written by anyone in any style. I think it's a fascinating piece, and I made the mistake of telling Vincent when he began composing this, sure, go ahead and write anything, I can play it. And it's a hard piece, but it's a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy. And So Forth. We come now to what is probably my favorite Scott Joplin rag. This is Magnetic Rag, written in 1914, just a few short years before Scott Joplin passed away. And it was at a time in Scott Joplin's life where he was living in New York City. He had been trying for a number of years in New York City to get his opera Treemonisha published and staged, all to no avail. And this piece was kind of his last ragtime gasp. It's another piece where the form is a bit unusual. There's an A strain, then a B strain, then a C strain, then a D strain, and then it returns to the A strain. And each one of these strains is such a different character from the others. I can't think of another rag that Joplin wrote where the four strains were all so distinctly different from each other. And it always sounded to me like each strain told a very personal Joplin story. The first strain, the A strain, begins in the style of classic ragtime, and it's beautiful, it's melodic, it is something that Joplin could have written 15 years earlier. The second strain, the B strain, sounds a lot like the Jewish music that Joplin might have been hearing in the neighborhood that he had been living in New York. The C strain sounds very jazzy. There are some jazzy sevenths in there, and just the whole flavor, the whole bass line, it's all a little bit different than how Joplin ever wrote. But it sounds very much like the direction Harlem was moving. James P. Johnson wrote his earliest rags right around this same time. And he was really right up the road from where Joplin lived. The D strain is the most interesting, though. The D strain doesn't reference any particular time or place. It's more like it represents Joplin's own pain and frustration and struggles that he was facing in New York, despite all of his best intentions, really thinking he would make a good go of it there. And his solution seems to be to come back to classic ragtime, to come back to that A strain, which was so beautiful in the first place. So here's Scott Joplin's Magnetic Rag. Okay, so for a little bit of fun, I'm going to play a Chopin etude. Now, what is Frédéric Chopin doing in a recital on ragtime? Well, we had to get this idea of an umpa left hand from somewhere. Turns out umpa left hands really were quite common even in the early 1800s. They found their way into all kinds of German marches and polkas and any wide variety of dances from across the European continent. Chopin's Butterfly Etude in G-flat major has a really nimble umpa left hand, and it's just such a terrific and playful piece, and a reminder to all of us pianists that the Chopin etudes really are a great grounds to practice and hone one's pianistic technique. So, Chopin's Butterfly Etude. Okay, so maybe that was a setup. The next piece I'm going to play is called Chopinada. It was written in 1927 by Léon Clement Doucet. It was popular at this time in the late teens and throughout the 20s, particularly in Europe, to play classical music in ragtime styles. Doucet wrote a bunch of these ragtime parodies of classical music. Isoldina, featuring the music of Wagner, a piece featuring all Liszt. But this piece is a mashup of some of Chopin's finest and best beloved works. So this is the French composer Clement Doucet, his Chopinada. Arthur Schutt was one of the great novelty piano composers and performers, but not particularly well known. He only published a handful of pieces, and most of those were in simplified arrangements. But Schutt's own performance style was extraordinarily virtuosic, and he would take the ideas that Zez Confrey was writing in his perhaps better known pieces like Kitten on the Keys and double them up. So if we have fourths in And So Forth and Kitten on the Keys, in Piano Puzzle, we put a fourth on top of a fourth and play it all together. And it creates this whole new pianistic texture that I've never heard textures from any other composer the way Schutt composed for the piano. So this is Arthur Schutt's Piano Puzzle. Syncopated Saturday Night. So, syncopated. What is syncopation? When a steady beat is established, and in this case, steady doesn't have to be like metronomically rigid. When a steady beat's established, syncopation refers to the rhythmic notes that fall off of the strong beats. And then they're combined with the absence of notes in strong beats where they should be. So, the notes kind of aren't where they're supposed to be. And it bears worth keeping in mind that the French translation for the word syncope is heart attack. It's the heart beating not at the right time. So ragtime and novelty, they live on syncopation. And generally the beat in ragtime and novelty styles, it's rather strict, whether the tempo is slow or fast. But jazz, it adds a whole other layer of time. It's stretchy. So in addition to that syncopation, there's a flexibility to the beat that's entirely new. And then as jazz progressed, of course, adventurous harmonies began to replace the more lyrical melodies that were so prevalent in the most wonderful and beautiful classic rags of Joplin or Lamb or Scott. So the next piece I'm going to play is a treat that I've been looking forward to presenting for a very long time. It's a piece written by Art Tatum. Now, Tatum, many of you will know, is the pianistic genius who had this virtuosic technique that surpassed everyone of his time. And by his time, I really mean like that entire 100 years surrounding him. Art Tatum was a really, really special, gifted pianist. But he wasn't much of a composer. At least he didn't see himself as such. He was born vision impaired, and in his early 20s he was attacked, and what little vision he had degraded even further as a result of that attack. So notating his own music was really something that wasn't quite possible for him. But on a trip to England in 1934, he worked with somebody who transcribed 4 pieces of his own making. As far as we know, they are the only original and notated compositions by Art Tatum. And somehow they've really kind of been lost to the sands of time. 3 of those 4 pieces, they're referred to sometimes as the 4 gems. There's sapphire, amethyst, turquoise, and jade. And 3 of those have been recorded. But they were recorded as a reference recording for the company that published these sheets, and jade was lost. And then amongst the sheets, one of the sheets was lost as well. I've managed to track down the sheets. The 4th missing piece of sheet music was hiding in the British National Library archives, and they were gracious enough to send me a scanned copy of that. But jade has never been recorded. So I actually get to present an Art Tatum original composition that's been heard by nobody. This is Art Tatum's Jade from 1934. I'd like to close this program with a classic piece of novelty piano writing called Dizzy Fingers. Zez Comfrey's Dizzy Fingers was probably one of the earliest syncopated pieces I ever learned. And it's also, thanks to a performance by Mimi Blais, I learned that it was a terrific vehicle for silliness. So with thanks and apologies to Mimi and to Eteriandra Paridze, the Georgian pianist that recorded an entire disc of all Zez Comfrey music with tremendous virtuosity, and to Richard Dowling, who played this on another syncopated Saturday night, and to young Isaiah Thomas out in California, and to the dozens and dozens of pianists I've heard give terrific recordings and performances of Dizzy Fingers. I'm so sorry to all of you, but it's such a fun piece. Dizzy Fingers. I just wanted to take a moment out in this program to give a really, really special thanks to everybody that's been a contributor to the Syncopated Saturday Night concerts that we've had thus far. It's a thrill for me to participate in it, and I hope you've enjoyed the music as much as I've enjoyed learning and preparing it. Thank you for being our audience, and I'll just say what I said again at the beginning of the concert. I really hope I get to see all of you in Sedalia, Missouri this summer.
Way to leave us hanging with the end of Dizzy Fingers there, Bill. No, that was a lot of fun. What a neat arrangement. Everything you played was good. I enjoyed Jade by Art Tatum. I'd never heard that before. And the Vincent Johnson piece, lots of musical gems in the program there. Thank you, Bill McNally. And I would like to echo something that Bill said, which is I hope we'll see many of you at the Scott Joplin Festival in Sedalia, Missouri this summer. It takes place June 1st through 4th. You can find out more about it by going to the Scott Joplin Foundation's website, www.scottjoplin.org. You can see the full list of concerts that will be taking place during the festival. We've got a concert devoted to the honky-tonk revival of the 1950s. We've got concerts dedicated to the music of women ragtime composers. We've got a concert dedicated to the music of Scott Joplin. Many other concerts as well, and of course the free outdoor venues with performers from like 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. every day. It's really a lot of fun, a lot of friends, a lot of good music, a lot of good food. The Scott Joplin Festival, June 1st through 4th this summer. We're back in person and we can't wait to see all of you. Well, before we go, I would like to thank the folks who work so tirelessly behind the scenes to make these syncopated Saturday night programs possible, especially Chris Robinson and our video editor Bob Walters. And of course, I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in and watching these programs, for contributing, and for sharing word about these programs to your family and friends. As a reminder, if they missed any part of tonight's program, or if you missed part of it, or you just want to see it again, you can catch it anytime at the Scott Joplin Foundation's YouTube channel. That's about it for tonight. I hope we'll see you in Sedalia, but if not, stay safe, be well, keep enjoying ragtime music, and we'll see you at another one of these syncopated Saturday nights. Until then, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.